Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, it is, hang on. It is the middle of the week. It is day of days. It is like you're halfway there. Go for it, Boomer.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is?
Yeah.
Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
So, yeah, we're there. We're halfway to the weekend, you guys. So congratulations for that. You're trucking right along. And so this is hump day, camel day. It's
a good day.
It's a good day. Boomer's on the board.
That's right.
Hey,
Hump
man.
day's a good day.
You all right?
I'm good. It's a good day. We just have a good time in here. We were just chatting away beforehand.
Who was it? I still got the picture. Who was it that sent us the picture? They superimposed the camel in the background with me doing a thumbs up, you know. And it's like,
that was such a good picture.
That's awesome. Did we post that to the website?
I know we posted it somewhere.
Maybe on social media. We need to find. I've got
I need
it.
to find it again.
I've
If
got
not,
it.
we got to post it.
Yeah,
everywhere.
we got to post that thing. All right. Hey, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. Several guests coming on. So 3:00 today, Todd Stacy. He is the publisher of Alabama Daily News. He'll be on with us at 3:00 to talk about some of the latest developments and what's going on with the redistricting fight and some really, in my opinion, sort of tacky developments with one particular legislator trying to tell everybody, well, I was trying to do it the right way and they wouldn't let me. It's just wacky. So we'll do that at 3:00 with Todd Stacy from Alabama Daily News. Then at 4:00, you know the deal. It's not only Camel Day, it's Grand Council Day. So at 4:00, the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson, two of my brethren in talk radio. We get on here and opine and ping each other with questions and to see what kind of things happen. So yeah, 4:00 today, Grand Council, Jeff Poore, Dale Jackson, and then I've got a triple dipper. Hit it, buddy.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So number 1, didn't get to it yesterday, but it's certainly worth doing. In fact, a few things happened overnight that I added to it. Number 1, a walk in Biden's world. It is, it's not a safe world. It never really is. And I acknowledge the fact that the difficulty on the world stage is not isolated to the Biden administration. But difficulty on the world stage is made more difficult by a weak presidency. And that's where we are. In fact, I just got a text from the lovely Charlene who just said that apparently the op-ed that came out on the Washington Post is calling for Biden not to run. So that's interesting. When the liberal Washington Post is saying, please make it stop. Anyway, a walk in Biden's world. That's number 1, Triple Dipper. Number 2, every once in a while you got to look around and see what's happening in your own backyard. So we'll be cooking up a batch of home fries. I've got several things to cover with you. Good news stories and some difficult stories and some just flat out news stories, things that are happening right here in Alabama. We'll talk about it. Some of that with Todd Stacy from Alabama Daily News. That's home fries, number 2. And then number 3, listen, I saw a story this morning about actor Chris Pratt, and it was like, man, that was cool, that was good. And then I realized there was another story about somebody else, and I thought, And next thing you know, I developed an entire segment, and I'm just calling it "Good Folks Are Still Out There." It's like it's a series of stories. It's just going to warm the cockles of your little ruffian hearts is what's going to happen. So yeah, we'll talk about number 3, Triple Dipper. Good folks are still out there. All right, hey, listen, let me jump over here to my comments. And I want to remind you guys that Southern Immediate Care, a chain of clinics across North Alabama, places like Attala, Anniston, Gadsden, 5 locations around the Birmingham area. Southern Immediate Care, it opens 7 days a week, and they are the sponsor of the daily Rightside Way monologue, and we appreciate it. So let me jump in here. I've got a friend who had one of those underground electric fences. You know what I'm talking about? The kind where you can't see it, but the wire is buried in a perimeter around the yard. And his dog, wore a collar, and the collar had a little box on it. The dog would shock him if he crossed over the invisible barrier. It doesn't take long for the dog to figure it out. I used to go jogging through my neighborhood near one of those yards. The first time I went down that route, this big black lab came just charging off the front porch of the house towards me, barking up a storm, looking like he was a trained killer. Now, I'm a dog person, but I thought this was a bite moment. I thought it was about to happen. And then the dog came to a screeching halt 3 feet back from the curb. Just like, just stopped. And I noticed it had a little box on its collar and, yep, invisible fence. After that, I ran by with impunity. Well, the funny thing is, though, the fence can be a deterrent, even if the power goes off. You see, the dog learns where the problem is. The dog's behavior is then modified by the mere possibility of the shock. And I'll be honest, that concept works well on people, too. And no, I'm not advocating for people to wear shock collars. I can already picture some of the emails I'm going to get now. That's not what I'm saying. But seriously, have you ever had one of those moments when you changed what you were going to do, literally changed it because of the mere possibility of negative consequences? I mean, we all have. I mean, when I was in Baghdad, we had some extremists we detained in a raid. Intel guys came and interrogated them, determined there was not enough to send them forward, so we had to release them. But we knew they were dirty. We knew they were jihadists. And I remember when the ops sergeant and I were releasing them near the gate of the fob, we both told them that we'd be watching them. And then, like kind of almost like on a whim, we both pulled out our pocket GPSs and implied that they were like mini TVs and we could access satellite images of whatever those two knuckleheads were doing anytime we wanted to. And their eyes got huge, and they left looking over their shoulder at us. It was fun. All we did was throw a little man-sized version of the electric fence out there and the mere possibility of a shock. But look, where it's not fun, where it's not even legal, is when the government takes certain actions with the sole intent of shutting down constitutional freedoms, especially freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is sacred in this country. There's a reason why it was the very First Amendment, the very first one on the list. And the Supreme Court of the United States does not take kindly to attempts by the government to take certain actions that the courts of this land refer to as having a chilling effect. A chilling effect. In essence, the government may not be able to follow through on its proposals, but the mere fact that it threatens to do so has a chilling effect on citizens speaking out due to the fear of the mere potential for consequences. So lawyer Phil here for a minute, some legal history for you. The Supreme Court developed and explained what is known as the chilling effect doctrine in several opinions that were issued back during the McCarthy era, involving legislation and regulations aimed at suspected communists and other so-called subversives. So in one case called Baggett v. Bullitt, 1964, the court struck down the loyalty oaths that were required of state employees. Wow. The court asserted that the threat of sanctions may deter almost as potently as the actual application of sanctions. It's like saying the fence power is turned off, but the dog is still scared of the shock. In another case, one called Lamont v. the Postmaster General, 1965, the court struck down a postal regulation that required any individuals who wished to receive communist literature to first have to sign up at the post office. Now, I'm not for communism at all, but I recognize that freedom of assembly and association and speech are still supposed to be protected. So although the program in that case included no sanctions against recipients, the court said it would chill individuals who wanted the material but were afraid to make it known to the government. The chilling effect of such governmental regulations was exacerbated by widespread knowledge that under the guidance of Director J. Edgar Hoover, that the FBI had gathered up dossiers recording the political beliefs and associations of millions of Americans suspected of so-called un-American views and activities. That chilling effect doctrine, it really came of age, though, in a case called Dombrowski v. Feister, 1965 again, a case involving what was known as the Louisiana Subversive Activities Law, in which the state of Louisiana was requiring civil rights groups to have to register as Communist Front organizations. So in a groundbreaking opinion written by Justice William Brennan, the court ruled that not only was the Louisiana law unconstitutional, but that federal courts could enjoin the state of Louisiana from bringing prosecutions under it. You see, the bottom line here, despite all that legal history, I'll just say it for you plainly. When the government even intimates that it will take certain actions, even if only to, quote, promote good order or to create an adequate database, it's as if you're the dog wearing the shock collar. You don't even know if the power's on, but you're sort of afraid to try. But unlike the dog, citizens of this nation are protected from such abuse, And sure, I mean, there's limitations. I mean, I can't go and incite violence or issue threats of harm. I can't yell fire in a crowded theater. And back when I worked with a security clearance, I couldn't divulge classified information. Certain aspects of society have restrictions on them, like the military. But listen, not the average John and Jane citizen. No. Generally speaking, the government has no right, no acceptable legal right to chill the rights of citizens to voice their opinions. And I mean, it's all the more telling, too, when you consider what Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland did not long ago. Think about this. Merrick Garland, a former judge, nominated by Obama for the Supreme Court, he issued a memorandum indicating that he was directing the Department of Justice and the FBI to begin reviewing the concerns of the National Association of School Boards about parents actually speaking out against board members. No specifics, just going to start taking some steps, you understand. Looking at the question raised by the association as the possible domestic terrorism of parents, John and Jane citizen. Well, he had no authority. He had no legal grounds. There's no probable cause to initiate a surveillance state activity like that. The FBI does not have localized jurisdiction over local issues. But what if he could just, announce it? Just, hey, Merrick Garland, let it be known you're looking into it. And by doing so, what does it do? It has a chilling effect on attempts to speak out by average folks who are just fed up with liberal social activism in their local schools. This is precisely the kind of McCarthyism the Supreme Court considered when it generated the chilling effect doctrine. So yeah, Merrick Garland and his thug tactics and empty threats, they can go pound sand. When the day comes that we no longer have the right, the actual right to speak on behalf of our children's education and welfare, then we have ceased to be a free nation. And we will be left to do nothing more than tell our kids about what it used to be like to live in a free nation. So don't be like the dog that fears the possibility of the shock even when the power is off. You know your rights. You cross that line. Wake up, Rightside ruffians. We've got this. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. The chilling effect doctrine. It's real. It means, you know what, they might not take action, but they might say a little something that makes you feel like you can't take action. And when they do that, they may not have actually curtailed your civil liberties, but they certainly put a chilling effect on you enforcing them or acting on them. Wow. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. So I tell you what, I'm going to the text lines are open, by the way, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You can call it or text it, same number for both. And we already got a few of you texting in, I guess right after the monologue. Yeah, Mike from Eva says, woof, woof, cross that line. Get her done. Allie from Athens says, yeah, and in Alabama, Colonel, we dare defend our rights. That is, by the way, thank you, Allie. If you did not know, that is the state motto. We dare defend our rights. Pretty cool motto, actually. Jeff from Green Hill says, my luck, my next trip by the dog, the batteries would be out in the dog's collar. That's my point, though, is the dogs get conditioned. They know where the fence line is supposed to be. And if they don't like, now I've seen, occasionally you'll find that dog that could care less. Woo! Like, they almost enjoy it. It's like a challenge. But I did have, Boomer, I did have a friend, though, who lived on the water here in the area.
Yeah.
And he had labs that, they were hunting dogs. And so he used to throw, like a ball or something out in the water so they'd go out and retrieve it and bring it back. And he had an electric fence around his property. He actually had it go out into the water. I didn't know you could do that. But he had it well out in the water. He said, and then one day he accidentally threw the ball too far. And he said, he said, Phil, I thought I was going to have to go out and rescue my dog.
Oh, no.
Dog's out in the water getting shocked, can't get away from it. And it's like, he said, I felt terrible. Anyway.
I had a couple friends that put the collar on before.
Really?
Yeah. They said, I'm not going to let my dog do anything I wouldn't do.
Okay.
And I said, good for you. They said it didn't feel too good.
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? The funny thing is, my granddog, when they were training him and all that, he actually they had a shock collar, but it was very minimal. It was like a reminder.
Right.
And they actually had a little key fob in their hands, and they
just
would
a
tell him to
little
do
button,
something, and if he didn't do it, they get a little zink, and you'd see him kind of give it a little start and look at him like, what in God's name did you just do? And they'd say, sit, and then he would sit, and he wouldn't get, after a while, they didn't have the collar, they took it off. They didn't use it more.
Just the reminder.
Yeah. It's how I train my kids to make their beds up in the morning and stuff like that. Time to mow the grass, son. But Dad, zink. Yes, sir. Not really. Brian from Huntsville says, a deterrent. Simply leaving the Second Amendment alone is a deterrent to most thieves. That is true. That is absolutely true. And I got, I don't know what you're trying to send me. Crazy Joe from Decatur is sending a meme, and he goes, sorry, sent the wrong one. It's not inappropriate, though. It's okay. So, all right, listen, we're going to talk about, in a minute, a walk in Biden's world. Let me just remind you, though, that the discussion we're going to have relates to things that I fully acknowledge did not just initiate upon his watch, but they have been exacerbated under his watch. When you watch the President of the United States stand up at a press conference at a G20 summit, like he did this past weekend, and just mumble, I'm going to go to bed. That's what he said at the podium. He couldn't remember who to ask questions of. He asked the staff, he goes, I got to follow my orders. Staff, who are the five that I'm asking questions? He didn't know what to do. He was kind of like half zoning and droning along, giving answers that weren't really clear. And then he would kind of perk up and say a few things. And then he started talking about dog-faced pony soldier. I mean, I got to tell you where that came from. There's a movie my brother watched one time, John Wayne, and he's like, what is happening right now? And then he caps it all off by saying, I'm going to go, I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to bed. I played the soundbite for you the other day. It was awful. I tell you what, Boomer, maybe during the break, if we could do a resurgence of that soundbite, I may want to use it again just to start off this monologue or this segment. Because as I talk about things that are happening around the world, like China beefing up around Taiwan and, Iran building an airstrip on the Iranian border along with Hezbollah and other things that are happening around the world, you gotta take a look at who's in charge, and maybe some of this happens anyway. And maybe, just maybe, what we're really doing is taking a walk in Biden's world. And yet we're all the ones who have to take that walk with him. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Yeah, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. I'm talking about this one, Alabama. And I mean to say this show, we send our signal like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. We're in number one of the Triple Dipper. I'm calling this, and I've done this periodically, I'm calling it a walk in Biden's world. I am going to be quick to admit that some of the situations that I am about to describe to you in detail are not brand spanking new. I get that. I totally get it. I mean, and nobody should underestimate the fact that the world is a dangerous place on a regular basis. And the world is going to always have foreign policy issues and, matters of international policy and, trade sanctions and tariffs and whatever else. However, in my opinion, some of what I'm about to go over with you has been exacerbated by the fact that we have a weak president right now. A weak president who on the world stage projects weakness, projects it to the point that it's almost embarrassing sometimes. And he's the president of the United States. He's the commander in chief. Like it or not, he is. I salute the office, absolutely do. And I pray for the office and the man who's in it. And I also pray that we get another one sometime soon. So there's that. And somebody the other day actually kind of critiqued me for calling things out and making things known. Listen, at some point in Matthew, Jesus looked at the Pharisees and called them a brood of vipers to their face. What he was saying was, he didn't say you're not allowed to be a Pharisee anymore. He just called them out because they were literally trying to curtail the mission that he was on. They were literally trying to do things to circumvent or to denigrate the actual truth that was supposed to be projected to the people. And that's what I'm saying here. On this show, there is no reason why, and you can do it respectfully, but there is no reason why anyone should ever think for a second that we as Christians or conservatives are not allowed to call out what we see. And you can do so, and it says it in Scripture, with gentleness and respect. I tell you what, Boomer, you got that sound effect? Let's just play it again because it's so worth kicking off this discussion about a walk in Biden's world by hearing one of his recent comments at the microphone.
The light. I see. I'm just following my orders here. Have a game plan. He may have a game plan. He just hasn't shared it with me. But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah, right after that, he finished his allotted 5 questions to the specifically tailored reporters, and then he didn't know really how to pull away from the microphone. He looked a little bit lost. He was obviously impaired by his long day and hard travels. It's a good thing he has plenty of vacations, but all that to say, he didn't do well. And in fact, Karine Jean-Pierre had to step in and go, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the press conference is over. We're done here. We're done here. Everybody." I mean, the president of the United States has still got the microphone in his hand, and she's the one who's going to interrupt him and tell him to stop. Story here from, this one came from military.com. Dateline today, actually yesterday, Dateline yesterday. China is continuously bolstering its military bases along the coastline facing Taiwan, according to the Taiwanese Defense Ministry, as Beijing steps up military activities around the territory it claims as its own. It says earlier on Tuesday, Taiwan's Defense Ministry said it spotted 22 Chinese warplanes and 20 warships near the island just in the last 24 hours. Part of military harassment by Beijing, which Beijing has not ruled out force to reunite the island with the mainland. Here's a quote from a Taiwanese general. This year, the Chinese Communist Party has aggressively expanded its armaments and continued to build various types of fighter jets and drones. And listen, over the past year, the article points out, over the past year, Beijing has stepped up their military activities around Taiwan, including sending warships and warplanes on a near daily basis. Now imagine if, say, off the coast of Florida, Cuba decided to keep sending its warplanes within our airspace. We already scrambled our jets just to ward off Russians that are flying in from our western side near Alaska. There are protocols, and there's also inflammatory actions. And what we're seeing right now is there's an emboldened China that is pressing further and further in as if they're going to take back Taiwan. How about this one, though? A walk in Biden's world while he takes his nap. Another one from military.com, actually dateline today. North Korea's Kim Jong-un vows a full support for Russia's just fight, he calls it. So North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who's, by the way, is a weird load. Old boy is just a weird load, but he does not like to fly. We don't know for a fact whether he's scared of flying or whether he's scared of being shot down. Either way, Kim always travels by train. He has a special luxury train just for him, and the rail lines actually go through North Korea and over into. So he made it to Russia. They went to the Vostochny Cosmodrome. I think that's near Vladivostok. But anyway, the bottom line is, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed support for Russia's just fight during a summit with President Vladimir Putin. Now you may wonder, what can North Korea possibly do? They can't feed their people. Well, this is a militarized state, and they have massive stockpiles of ammunition, and they use Russian variants. So whereas Russia uses 7.62 in their Kalashnikov rifles, and they have artillery shells, and they're burning them up at record rates in Ukraine, the North Koreans have massive stockpiles, and they can assist by providing what it says here in the article. They can assist by providing stockpile artillery shells and rockets and small arms ammunition, and save the Russians a huge amount of money and time on restocking. So yeah, that can happen. Remember when Trump was in office and he actually went and actually stood there face to face with Kim Jong-un, stepped across the demilitarized zone line, the DMZ line, and walked over and they got their picture made? And it was like a brand spanking new day. You could tell Kim was like excited and just like a kid. And we didn't see any missile launches for quite a period of time. By the way, Kim Jong-un, right before he got on his train and left for Russia, they fired 2 ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan. How about this one? From the Free Beacon, dateline yesterday. A walk in Biden's world as his Air Force Secretary. Not like some wingding or some pundit. His Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall, said in a Monday speech that China is preparing for war with the United States. Here's the quote. Today, the intelligence could not be clearer. Whatever its actual intentions may be, I could not say, but China is preparing for a war, and specifically for a war with the United States. The Air Force Secretary's comments come in the wake of President Joe Biden's Vietnam visit. By the way, that's where he was when he said, "I'm going to bed," during which the president said that China's economic problems make the country less likely to invade Taiwan. Really? Sir, because your Air Force Secretary says no? They're preparing. Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin said, by contrast, that China's internal problems, because their economy's struggling, China's internal problems could cause President Xi Jinping to become even more aggressive. But you look at this and go, okay, a walk in Biden's world. If you got an aggressive China, and you've got North Korea working to aid and abet the Russians in their fight against Ukraine, and you got, things that are building up that your own Air Force Secretary says could wind up being a threat not just to Taiwan but to the United States. Well, maybe, just maybe, you take a bold stance. You go ahead and get that kind of steely-eyed look, and you say, "Not on my watch." No, not Biden. Aside from saying that he needed a nap, story here on NBC News. Came out over the weekend. President Joe Biden sought to downplay friction with China and insisted he's not going to try and constrain the country's rise. Really? Our near-peer adversary, and you're going to just tell the world, I'm not looking to do anything. What he said was this. Here's the quote, said Biden. "I don't want to contain China. I just want to make sure we have a relationship with China. It's on the up and up, squared away. Everybody knows what it's all about. We're not looking to hurt China, sincerely. We're all better off if China does well. We're all better off if China does well." said the man who, when he was running for office, it was said that his strengths lie in foreign policy. This is the guy who chaired the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, who is now in Vietnam at the G20 summit, representing the great United States of America, yawning at the microphone, saying he's just ready to go to bed, and saying, I'm really not trying to contain China. Yeah, I want them to do better. I want them to get stronger because they have all of our good intentions at heart. All right, listen, we're going to take a break right now. When I get back from the break, I got to switch gears and tell you about the thing that if you haven't heard it, may just make you mad. Like, I don't know, why don't we just give Iran $6 billion? Like, just give it to them. Sort of reminds you of back when Biden was vice president. They delivered pallets of cash to Iran. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, a walk in Biden's world. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Yeah, making common sense a superpower. So if you have not heard, I mean, first of all, think back. We are seeing a continuation of the Obama administration right now. So many things that we see are like Obama plus. And there are some who believe that the Obama White House is really the Biden White House, and I get it. But that being said, think back historically. Remember the whole Iran nuclear deal, just an absolute debacle of a deal. And in order to sweeten the pot and try to get Iran to say they won't ever build nuclear weapons, right? They'll stop building nuclear weapons. Sure, they will. Well, they will if we give them pallets of cash. Billions of dollars. My recollection was $7 billion stacked up in pallets and flown to Iran. Just pallets of cash. Wow. That's the way foreign policy works in the Obama-Biden White House, and apparently, though, that's the way it works in the Biden White House. Story on Fox News. This came out 2 days ago. Biden administration strikes a deal with Iran to swap prisoners and release $6 billion in frozen funds. Kid you not. And by the way, they can't explain it. The Biden administration struck a deal with Iran to swap prisoners and release $6 billion in frozen Iranian funds. Per the deal, Iran will release 5 American citizens detained in Iran, and the U.S. will release 5 Iranian citizens being held in the U.S. I mean, yeah, you don't just do like prison swaps. No. What are we getting out of it? We're getting our 5 people back. What are they getting out of it? Well, they're getting their 5 people back and $6 billion in cash. The deal creates a blanket waiver to transfer $6 billion in frozen Iranian money from South Korea to Qatar without fear of violating U.S. sanctions. No money is going directly to Iran. Oh, come on, Fox. Money is going to Iran. They're excited about it, by the way. They're already talking about it. In fact, their comments, I think it was one of the chief leaders of the Islamic regime said that they're going to spend that money however they see fit. Okay. By the way, they are considered to be now on the cusp of having the capacity to process uranium and to make their own nukes. The country that says death to Iran, or excuse me, death to Israel, death to the U.S. is about to be nuclear. The United States classifies Iran, it says in the article, as a state sponsor of terrorism. And oh, by the way, Congress was not notified of the $6 billion decision until Monday, which was the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. So on the anniversary of 9/11, this tone-deaf administration decides, hey, we got to tell y'all something. We went ahead and gave $6 billion back to the Iranians. Why'd you do that? Well, we're getting our people back. We had to buy them back from a state sponsor of terrorism? This is just what happens in Biden's world. How about this one? A walk in Biden's world. Iran is further emboldened. September 12th, Dateline yesterday. Associated Press. Israel accuses Iran on Monday of building an airport in southern Lebanon to be used as a launch pad for attacks against Israelis across the border. They're building it. Iran is building it. Iran is building it in Hezbollah-controlled territory just 12 miles from the Israeli border. 12 miles. You could throw a rock 12 miles. I'm just saying. This is not just, I mean, there's no other purpose for it. Well, we're just building it, we're going to build an international airport. No, you're not. Well, we just wanted to have the crop dusters have a place to land. A 3,900-foot runway? Satellite images obtained by the Associated Press in late July show work on a 1.2-kilometer or 3,937-foot runway with hangars already constructed on tarmac just east of the runway. This is a staging point. Speaking at a high-profile security conference hosted by Reichman University near Tel Aviv, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant claimed that Iran has been building a runway that slices through the forested mountains just 12 miles from Israel's northern border. He displayed satellite photographs that he said showed the site where the Iranian national flag and the flag of Lebanon's militant Hezbollah group can be seen. So they're not even pretending. They are so emboldened right now in Biden's world that they will build an airstrip 12 miles from Israel's border and fly the Iranian flag on it. That's where we are. How about this? We heard the other day when President Biden spoke in Alaska on 9/11 because he wasn't at one of the 9/11 sites. He chose to be the first president not to be there. He went and spoke to the troops, though, up in Alaska, at the 11th Airborne Division. And when he did, he talked about the fact that Al Qaeda and other terrorist elements are now at the lowest level ever in Afghanistan. No, they're not. No, they're not. Story here on Fox News, and this one dates back to April. It says a string of Islamic State Khorasan, which is ISIS-K, they call it, province attacks in recent months has brought renewed attention to the lack of the U.S. ability to run counterterrorism operations in Afghanistan. You remember during the pullout when Biden finally went to the microphone and said something? I mean, this has been like, he waited for weeks. He finally went to the microphone and he said, we'll have over-the-horizon capability. Do you know what that means? You know how many hours of flight time it takes to get the kind of over-the-horizon capability for a large landlocked nation like Afghanistan? Well, it says here in this article, the lack of over-the-horizon capabilities is contributing to the country once again becoming a breeding ground for ISIS-K, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist organizations. Among the problems the U.S. is facing in preventing the spread of terrorism in Afghanistan is unreliable intelligence gathering. When we left the country, we degraded our ability to gather intelligence. We're down to just 2% of what we used to have when we were in country. The article goes on to talk about one expert says that basically the Biden administration is technically being held hostage by the Taliban because they're scared to upset the Taliban and they're scared to upset Al-Qaeda, so they don't want to do anything. Plus, they also don't want to have to go do anything, which would certainly contravene their claims that there's nothing to go do. It's a walk in Biden's world. Last one before we hit the break, and we'll change when we get to the top of the hour. We'll have a call with Todd Stacy. So Belarus, Russian ally Belarus, just on the northern side of Ukraine. Belarus is saying that it would use nuclear weapons in the event of aggression, and that Belarus has actually been receiving tactical nuclear weapons from Russia. That's a dynamic you don't want to have. Why would they do that? Well, Belarus is not technically at war with Ukraine. And so by keeping the tactical nukes there, you have to risk a first strike against a country that's not currently in the conflict. And yet that country is saying they would use them. Holy crap. A walk in Biden's world. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, we're entering number 2 of the Triple Dipper for the day. We're going to talk about things that are happening right here in our backyard, because it's important to look around and see things that are happening, of course, in D.C. and what's happening on the world stage, and know the events of your day. But y'all, I mean, I'm of the firm belief that what comes out of Montgomery sometimes has more impact on our lives than what happens in D.C. So with that in mind, we have to take a time every once in a while to do what I call cooking up a batch of home fries. Yeah, sizzle them up. All right, listen, we're going to bring on a friend of mine. Todd Stacy is the publisher of Alabama Daily News and also the host of the public television show Capitol Journal, which airs every week. He's on the line with us right now. We're going to talk about what's going on with this redistricting case for Alabama. Todd Stacy, how you doing?
I'm great, Phil. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, thanks for making some time for us today.
You bet.
Hey, listen, Todd, you probably have the Attorney General coming on sometime soon, but what we're looking at right now with the redistricting case, my audience is fairly up to speed on it, but the latest developments are that we have indeed, as a state, asked the Supreme Court to intervene in the matter, and we're still waiting on the special master to tell us what's going to happen with our maps. At the same time, we have Representative Chris Pringle, who thought it'd be a great idea to throw his peers under the bus and say, I did a good job and nobody else did. Your thoughts on where we are right now?
So just getting caught up on where we are legally, the 3-judge panel of the 11th Circuit, right? This is the 3-judge panel that really has been reviewing Alabama's redistricting process from the beginning, right, for a couple of years now.
Right.
They handed down a ruling, I guess on Monday, essentially ordering that special master to begin his work, but issuing a hold, a restraining order, essentially, on the state from moving forward with the districts that the legislature drew, right? They found fault with them. They found that those districts were not what they ordered the state to do. And so, based on their interpretations and everything, ordered this, restrained the state from moving forward with elections based on that map. But now the Attorney General, Steve Marshall, has asked the Supreme Court to stay that ruling, right? He's asked the court to set that ruling aside, set those restrictions aside, and allow the state to move forward with these legislatively drawn districts as the legal argument plays out. Marshall absolutely intends to appeal that 3-judge panel, appeal for good and all, and have that legal argument before the full court. But this question before the court right now is, will they put on hold and stay that lower court ruling and allow the state to move forward with these elections or not?
So I guess let me jump in there. So the net effect of what you just said is the Republican Party just established firmly by resolution that the qualifying for races is in November of this year, if I'm not mistaken. And so in November, if you're running, you're supposed to qualify. And right now, nobody really knows what district they're going to be living in.
That's right. And that's why I expect a ruling on this pretty soon. And look, the ruling on this stay, whether or not to stay the lower court's ruling, really doesn't impact the big question in the case, right? Whenever you hear the Supreme Court rules on this, which could come tomorrow, it could come Friday, that's not them ruling against or for Alabama in the big case,
right?
In the question on the case. It's just about whether or not the state can move forward with the districts it drew, or the state needs to go by what the special master draws. And, in talking with folks about this, and you're right, I'm interviewing the Attorney General tomorrow for Capitol Journal. It would kind of surprise me if the if the Supreme Court did not, allowed the state to go with its own map. It would surprise me if they overturned the lower court, right? If they struck them down just on the state question. So, in my opinion, I do think that special master is going to draw these maps. I think the election that we have or having this time next year is going to be based on a map that a special master drew, not on what the legislature drew.
Well, you've now you previously served on staff with Congresswoman Roby, Martha Roby, and did y'all go through while she was in office and you were on her staff? Did y'all go through any redistricting and watch your district lines change around?
No, in fact, but I was in the Speaker's office
when
that's right. That 2010,
yes.
That 2010-2011 redistricting happened, and it was not really that dramatic. The districts changed just a little bit, but everybody was happy with their districts. There weren't these big population shifts. There were not these new legal arguments about cracking and packing. So it wasn't really that big a deal. But fast forward, 10 years, 12 years, and it sure is a big deal.
Oh, yeah, it is. Well, it changes everything. And here's the other thing, too, Todd, and I know you know this, but I'm saying it for the benefit of my audience, is this is not just an Alabama issue. This is something that is being looked at as affecting multiple states. I think it's Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, and maybe one of the Carolinas. I'm not sure which, but all of them have issues right now that how this works out for Alabama's congressional lines could well have ripple effects that go across multiple states and create the challenges for who knows how many states. We even had Congresswoman Terry Sewell, our only Democrat, say most recently, next on the list is they're going to start looking at Jefferson County Commission's lines. I mean, where does it end?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. But you're right about the other states because there are similar cases working their way up. North Carolina is probably the next one. Texas is right there. Texas is a little different because of how different their population is, right? Between black, Hispanic, white. It's just very different than it is in a deep South state like Alabama. And I'll say this. I've heard a lot of folks say that those states who are trying to keep, essentially their Republican seats do not want Alabama's case to be the final arbiter of what happens. Yeah. Right? They would rather, because there have been some flaws in Alabama's arguments, and there have been maybe some long shot arguments. And so, North Carolina would much rather their arguments go, or maybe even Louisiana, have a better shot. So for that reason, those states are rooting for the Supreme Court ultimately to not rule on Alabama, right? Not rule one way or the other, which is a possible outcome here. You know, whenever that case gets up there, and our official appeal goes to the Supreme Court, they don't have to hear it. And by not deciding, they actually are deciding, right? They're saying, we're not going to rule on this right now. We're going to wait for another case to determine what are we doing between race and proportionality and how to draw districts.
Yeah, and one of the interesting dynamics in our situation too is, and it irritates the stew out of me. I mean, I'd love to believe, and I know for a fact, because I talked to several of them, that legislators, Alabama legislators, were being told, hey, just don't go making open comments right now. Don't feed the flames. Don't give them something they can use later. And yet, inexplicably, in an article too that you guys had up, came out Monday, State Representative Chris Pringle, who was co-chair of the House Redistricting Committee, or chair of the House's version of the Redistricting Committee, he submitted his own plan to the special master just in the last couple of days, because he said he wanted them to understand that there was another attempt and that it was important that they see it. And I thought, I'll be honest with you, to me, this is smacked of, hey, look at me. I tried to do a good thing. Y'all make sure you know that I tried to do a good thing. It was all of them that did the bad thing. I just see this as being completely non-helpful. Have you talked to Pringle? Do you know what his interests were here?
Well, yeah. I mean, talked to him for that article. And I didn't write the article, but he came to me saying, "Hey, I'm about to submit this map." So of course we wrote a story about it. And I talked with Mr. Pringle basically throughout the redistricting process back in July, and he was pretty frustrated because he thought he had the best map possible to keep representatives and keep congressmen in their districts, not run one against the other, try to bump up that black voting age population to a point where maybe it is a question. I don't think it really would have satisfied this 3-judge panel. I really don't. But yeah, he was pretty frustrated that he kind of got ran over by the Senate and also by the Attorney General because they were advising the Senate. And so, yeah, I think it was. I think it's born out of that frustration that maybe it could have been different if they had adopted his map. Would it have been? I don't know, but I think. I think he felt a little vindicated by the court that the court really. I mean, and remember these are conservative justices, as relatively speaking. Two Trump appointees, one Reagan/Clinton appointee. Really. I mean, it was a scathing ruling about Alabama, and so I take your point. I'm sure a lot of lawmakers are not appreciative of what he did, but there was a lot of frustration, not just from Pringle, but a lot of House members as to why their plan was scrapped, and the Senate plan, which didn't even come close, was ultimately the thing.
I look at that though, and then I have to say, well, then what was the final vote? And I'm pretty sure Pringle voted to confirm the plan that the Senate proposed. Am I right?
Oh, of course, yeah. It was unanimous amongst her, but it was all party line, down the way.
I gave the thumbs up. I was happy, but hey, make sure you understand that I was trying to do a good job. That's just I just see this as being it was a punk move in my opinion. But hey, listen, man, we're out of time, but I really appreciate you reporting on this, and I look forward to seeing your interview with the Attorney General on Capitol Journal. And if folks want to find you on Alabama Daily News, tell them where they can find it.
It's really easy. Just go to aldailynews.com. You're going to want to sign up for the email. And yes, Capitol Journal is Friday night at 7:30 on Alabama Public Television and Sundays at noon.
All right, man. Todd Stacy, we appreciate you. Have a great day.
All right, Phil. Be good.
All right, we'll take a break right now. We'll come right back. We're going to keep on with home fries. I'll give you a few more perspectives on that situation we just talked about there with Todd Stacy and the redistricting. Because, I really do believe we had a legislator who just threw his fellow legislators under the bus in what I call a total punk move. And we'll talk about some other stuff happening around the state. Home fries, that's where we are. Y'all stay tuned. Be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. So we just had that conversation there with Todd Stacy. We're in home fries, which is there. It is. I caught Boomer off guard. Yeah, we're cooking up some home fries right now. Talking about things that are happening in and around us. All right, so. I mean, we got to pay attention. We got to know. We got to see what's happening. So one of the things that just happened, and I just look at this as being so subpar. So in the middle of this whole fight about redistricting, the fact that we have the courts involved. When you have the courts involved, by the way, like this is where I would tell one of my clients as an attorney, hey, listen, just curtail your social media for a while. And how about not sending the other guy a text message, please? Because everything, text messages, social media, all of it can be used against you. Well, we're in the middle of litigation right now over our redistricting. And one of the state representatives, Chris Pringle, who is actually I think he is the Speaker pro tem, if I'm not mistaken, of the House. He has run for Congress at least 3 times, unsuccessfully. Chris Pringle was also the chair of the redistricting committee. Well, he had his own plan. He had a map. He liked his map. His map was a good map. I like my map, and they didn't use my map. Now I'm upset because they didn't use my map. Well, his map, here we are. We had the issue is how much is enough in terms of setting the standards for, black population in a voting district. In this case, the one that was approved elevated one of the districts to, I think, 38%, 38.8%, I believe. Chris Pringle's map, the one that he proposed from the House, because, he had to have his own version. They couldn't get together ahead of time, House and Senate say, marching in lockstep together, fellas, here's the one map we're going to use. No, separate maps. Okay, that also makes you wonder, by the way, what was up. But Chris Pringle had a map that would have made that percentage go all the way to 42%. 42%. It was 4% more. I had a better map. Guess which one he voted for in the end? The one that we're fighting over right now. Not his map. He voted for the one the Senate proposed. He voted for the one the court rejected, but he voted for that one, and now he's upset. And so Chris Pringle, in what I call a total punk move, threw the rest of his legislator buddies under the bus. And on Monday of this week, he told Alabama Daily News he wants the judges to know there was a legitimate attempt to comply with the court order. And the community of interest plan, which is what they call his, is that attempt. He said, I thought it was important the court actually get to see the communities of interest plan. Oh, okay. So he filed his map with the court. Now, here's the thing. That map was not secret. If the court wanted to see it, they could have seen it. If the court wanted to require production of any maps related to it, they could have required them. What Chris Pringle wanted was to make sure Chris Pringle's name was out there. What Chris Pringle wanted was to make sure everybody understood he was a good guy. All y'all that are mad at us, don't be mad at me. I tried. They wouldn't listen. This was a punk move by a legislator who just tried to make all the rest of his legislator peers look like knuckleheads. And the reality is, the only knucklehead in this one is Chris Pringle. That just irritates the stew out of me. How much time have I got, Boomer, before I jump into my next story? 1 minute? Just one? Because the next story is so good. Not really, but it's such a good one to talk about. Listen, we're doing home fries. And then keep in mind, by the way, top of the hour, we're going to come back and have the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson. But this next story I've got, this one's going to rock your world a little bit. Like, I don't know about you, Boomer, but when I was a kid, we were always playing soldier or cops and robbers or something. I mean, how many times you run around and yell, bang, bang?
Oh,
A few.
more than I can count.
Yeah. And usually it was more like, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Watch out!
Yeah. Apparently now you can get expelled as a kid from school if that happens. Just so you know. Yeah, not in San Francisco, like in Dora, Alabama. Kid you not. We're going to talk about it when we get back, among other things that are happening around the state, because we're cooking up some home fries. And you might want to know, too, even though it's home fries, it happened right next door. If you're getting gas sometime in the near future and you're near the Georgia state line, like you're driving to Chattanooga northeast out of Alabama and you're heading up 59, you got to pass through Rising Fawn. you might want to stop in Rising Fawn, Georgia, and get your gas. Why? Because the governor just declared a tax moratorium on gas tax. I'll tell you about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama. I'm talking about this show. We send our signal like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Speaking of Georgia, while I've got Georgia on my mind, y'all are gonna be singing that now. Georgia on my mind because the AP reports that as of this morning, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has signed an executive order to suspend further collection of gas taxes for the foreseeable future, at least through October, and or through mid-October. So at least for the next month. So for the next So for the next month, if you get gas in Georgia, it's 31.2 cents per gallon cheaper, unless you're getting diesel, and then it's 35 cents per gallon cheaper. Why is he doing this? Georgia's government, it says, gave up an estimated $1.7 billion in revenue during an earlier suspension, what they did for 10 months back during COVID in 2022 to 2020. That was $170 million a month they gave up. And they did it. And by the way, I was telling Boomer, I used to work with the Alabama Policy Institute before we had the radio show. And we were pressing hard for Governor Ivey to do this too. Other states were doing it. It wasn't Georgia. Georgia wasn't the only one. We were asking them to provide relief to people during that COVID pandemic downturn we had in the economy. And she would not do it. Would not do it. Governor Kemp is now doing it again. So he did it for 10 months back in COVID. He's doing it again for right now for at least 1 month because basically the economy being what it is, gas prices are going up. Now here's the other thing. They can afford it, but so can Alabama. It says Georgia can easily afford to forego the cash, which is used mostly for road building, just like Alabama. Not only is its rainy day account full, it has roughly $10 billion in additional surplus cash. Alabama has a cash surplus right now. Alabama also has a massive rainy day fund. They choose not to use it. But here's the other thing. Politically speaking, it also lets him shift the state political conversations because right now, sucking all the oxygen out of the room is the Trump Georgia indictment. And this gives him a chance to let something else be talked about for a while, I guess. Well, that's the Associated Press's negative take on it. Or then again, maybe he's just doing something good for his people. How about that? All right. Home fries. Right? Oh, you're going to cook them? Y'all can't see the looks that Boomer gives me sometimes.
I do have some good ones.
He cut some looks over here at me like, you didn't see it coming, did you? All right. You gotta leave your camera on all the time.
They don't want to see me during the whole time because my eyes are going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, we live stream the show, by the way. We're on camera constantly, and y'all can see me looking at Boomer and cracking up, but you can't see what Boomer's doing. All right. Here's a story, by the way. This is off 1819 News. Story broke today. Talking about home fries. I asked Boomer right before the break, did you play cowboys and Indians or bank robbers and, cops and robbers and army soldiers when you were growing up? You did?
All the time. Every day after school we did something like that.
It's a red-blooded American boy thing to do.
That's right.
By golly.
Yeah.
And did you always have the toy gun or did you have to sort of make do?
Sometimes it was a stick, but I made something.
Nice. Then again, there's always the old, make the sign with your hands. Pow, pow, pow. Yeah. All right, yeah. That'll get you kicked out of school in some places now, even in Alabama. Story on 1819 News. A parent of a Jefferson County student who was suspended earlier this month for pretending that his finger was a gun in a game of cops and robbers spoke out during an interview on a station in Montgomery. The father says, "I was really shocked this happened in Alabama," said Jared Belcher, whose son attends the Bagley Elementary School in Dora. I mean, this is like right smack in the middle of red meat country, y'all. This father said, I wouldn't have been surprised if it happened in, say, California or New York. I never would have expected this to happen here. He said the administrators at the school called him on a Friday afternoon to tell him that his 6-year-old, Boomer, 6 years old, just like your little man.
Right.
6 years old, that his 6-year-old first grader had been suspended. I asked her, "Can you tell me why?" And she just said, "He was using a finger gun." to which Belcher explained, Belcher asked, "Then I thought," he said, there's got to be more to this. So after arriving at the school, he and his wife met with the assistant principal named Donna Page, who once again told them their son got in trouble because he and another boy were playing and using their index fingers as make-believe guns. Was he hurting anyone, Belcher asked? Was there any violence or physical contact? No. Was there any hostility? No. Was there any indication of a current or future threat? She said no. I said, "Well, it just sounds like two boys playing cops and robbers." And she said that's what it was. They were playing. Nonetheless, he was suspended. And you just got to look at this and go, what the heck, man? But it says, too, in the story that the infraction was lowered to a Class 2, which is only half a day suspension. It's a Class 2.
So they're just using him as an example.
I guess.
Or trying to say, hey, I'm sorry, you can't play cops and robbers anymore.
Anyway, it made national news. Fox News took it up. Babylon Bee's true news site, not the Bee, took it up. And the school did lower it because they started getting pressure. It says, but Belcher, the dad, is still putting up a fight. His attorney sent a letter to Jefferson County Schools on Friday demanding the school remove any record of a criminal infraction from Belcher's son's record. Can you imagine? I'm not even sure that's home fries right there. That's just, that's like, what can we call that? That's like,
I don't know.
I don't know. Home mess. That's
Yeah.
Wow. That's a turd sandwich right there is what that is.
It is.
All right, let me jump over here to, by the way, you'll be happy to know, speaking of home fries, that Hillary Clinton doesn't like some things Alabama's doing.
Of course she does. I'm in shock
you-
over here.
are you?
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
Thanks, Hillary.
This is important. This is
Oh,
important.
sorry. This is my serious face.
Yeah, right. Back here we go. Former U.S. Senator and 2016 presidential candidate Hillary Clinton chimed in on litigation moving through the federal courts involving an abortion fund, according to Yellowhammer News. Story came out last week.
Okay, what's that?
Says Clinton made the comment on Twitter in response to a lawsuit filed by a pro-abortion rights group questioning the legality of Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall's position that the state can investigate and prosecute those who assist in traveling for out-of-state abortions. So what Attorney General Marshall has done is said that it falls under the realm of potential conspiracy to commit a crime if you're reaching into the state to pull people out to go get abortions elsewhere and then send them back. Basically, you used Alabama time, Alabama resources to help create an abortion where one would not have otherwise been allowed here. Anyway, Hillary Clinton calls that move horrific. Yeah. And never mind that it's just in line with Alabama law. But and she's not the Attorney General, but she called it horrific, to which Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall fired back at her on Twitter with a simple word, horrific, ? She has not answered. Yeah, just saying. How about this one? So we came out yesterday that the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, has announced plans to, open an impeachment inquiry. And to begin the process of what it takes to see Biden impeached. And he listed the evidence. He said, we've got this, we got that. It's criminal in nature. It's corruption at the highest levels. It's graft. It's using your office for personal gain. So on Tuesday, U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced plans to direct that impeachment inquiry. And Alabama's congressional delegation has now weighed in. And I think to a man, they have said they're for this. Although I will say this, AL.com is trying to say that Senator Tuberville is not on board. No, what Senator Tuberville said was he hates the idea of having to spend time doing this trial. I mentioned before when I was in Montgomery and we were looking at the state level with issues with Governor Bentley, that it sucks the oxygen out of that room. You can hardly get anything else done because of the amount of time and energy going into everything surrounding. This is a massive undertaking, massive. And so I know what Tuberville's saying. He hates the idea of having to go through this. I haven't seen yet, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen yet him saying he does not believe it's the right thing to do. However, our House members are all in. U.S. Representative Robert Adderholt said, I look forward to reviewing the facts, and I know my colleagues in these committees will do a thorough job. When we took control this year, one of the promises we made was to hold President Biden and his administration accountable. Representative Jerry Carl from Mobile said he supported the inquiry and believed that political positions have been used for financial gain by the president. Representative Dale Strong from Huntsville also supports the inquiry, saying he additionally supported impeachment investigation into other officials, like Alejandro Mayorkas from Homeland Security. U.S. Representative Barry Moore went to social media to express his support for the impeachment inquiry. The only one I don't see in this particular article is Congressman Mike Rogers, but I know where he is. He's going to be for it. So all said and done, the Alabama delegation is weighing in saying, we got no issues. In fact, keep this in mind. There are 3 committees, House Ways and Means, House Oversight, and House Judiciary, that are the 3 committees that have been tasked by Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker McCarthy, to conduct the inquiry. Alabama's delegation sits on at least 2 of those committees. I think Barry Moore sits on Judiciary and maybe Oversight, and I believe that, Robert Adderholt sits on Ways and Means. So it's going to be interesting, and Alabama's going to be in the mix on it. All right, we're going to take a break right now. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. And we got a little bit more on this. Plus, I got plenty of text messages, and I see a call coming in. So, yeah, you guys stay tuned. Phil Williams cooking us some home fries. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, making common sense a superpower. We are right smack in the middle of finishing up a round of home fries. Yeah, sizzle them up. Been talking about the things that are happening in and around our backyard. One of the things we covered was redistricting, and I see I got a call on line one about that very topic. Kareem. Hey, Kareem, how you doing, buddy?
How you doing today, Phil?
I'm good, man. What's on your mind?
Listen, I'll look at it like this. I'm saying, because I'm not even going to say that, the obvious, okay, is the Republicans trying to dilute the black vote and stuff like that. I'm not even going to go there. All I'm saying is that there's other ways to get to the black vote. If Republicans come to our neighborhood and talk to us, that's one way. They act like we the boogeyman. They come in the neighborhood. It's just not going to happen. If I was running for office, I would go straight to trailer parks, wherever I need to go to speak to white people. That's what I would do. I would come straight at them, and I would let them know what I have to offer, first of all.
Okay.
Then, if you know how many black people probably would have voted Republican this year if it had not been for Trump, if he was not in the way right now of the Republican Party, if he was the one that if he would have just went about his business like every other president before him,
yeah, let me ask you.
And just let things and just let it work out the way it's supposed to do, how many people would have voted Republican this year? Especially after Joe Biden.
Let me ask you about that.
We already know this man is 100 years old. He can't go no more.
It's getting awful. Let me ask you about that though. So, with regards to what I don't have any choice but to call it the black vote. I mean, with regards to the black vote, there's been a lot of reporting about the fact that that more and more percentage polls are showing is that the black voters are tending to lean towards Republican, period, but they're also leaning towards Trump also. So you don't think that's the case?
No, and the talk in the barbershop is that everybody wants him to go to jail. They want to see the same sort of justice that's been doled out to us for centuries doled on him. That's the talk that's in the barbershops. At least the barbershops that I go to, the ones that's around me, through whether it be from here to New York, everybody want to see him go to jail. They really think he's going to get off, he's going to skate, one, because he's Trump, and two, because he's white.
Well,
okay, because this is the laws that's been holding us down since the beginning.
I don't know that I can go down that road because some of the charges that are against him are so novel. I mean, they're like creating new ideas to indict people with. And you just had the situation, and I just forgot, and I hate that I've forgotten now. But the Ahmaud Arbery shooting over in Georgia, and the Georgia jury found the white guy is guilty. So you can't say that justice can't be served.
I understand that, but see, that's to us, Phil. That's like a one-off. We're talking generations of black people going to jail for stuff white people don't. This is just the way it is in the country. We understand that. That's already been established. That nothing has happened within this last couple of years that's going to change that. As far as RICO laws and all that go, we've never seen anybody walk away from it and escape it, or either to be able to come home and relax with their family and go to work and stuff like that. That's just not in our preview.
All right. So,
but that's not even what matters because we've learned to cope with.
All right, we're getting far afield though. Your original question is about redistricting. So what's your actual so on the current situation we got right now?
All I'm saying is that you don't have to gerrymander. You don't have to dilute the black vote. Come to the black community. Give us a reason to vote for you. And the number one reason right now for us not to vote for you guys is to get rid of Trump.
Well, I get you, but you do realize, well, hang on, Kareem, you do realize it was black activists who filed the lawsuit to change the districts. It's not like the legislature did that. The legislature drew the maps, and if you're saying, just come get our vote, I agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. But the reality is, it's a black activist group and Southern Poverty Law Center and the ACLU that are the ones filing the suit, not us, not the legislature.
Yeah, because and then the Republicans is fighting to leave it like it is. And of course, it's always the behind the scenes thing. We're going to dilute the black vote, so they just push everybody into one precinct. So whatever they do, they can't pick their representatives. It don't matter.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question on that though.
We think in another 50 years we'll be past this.
Let me ask you a question on that though. Because the districts that we're being sued over right now have pretty much been intact and unchanged for the most part since like 1992. So why was this year different?
Let me tell you something. Regardless whether it was under the Democrats or the Republicans, it's always been about the black vote. Whether before when it was restricting us from voting or the litmus tests before we vote, everything is always about the black vote, and we understand this.
Yeah, but those
You
things
see,
are
I
illegal.
understand this totally.
Those things are illegal and have nothing to do with our
it's
current
always about the
redistricting.
black vote.
Yeah, but those things are illegal, and we've done away with that. I mean, those were horrible poll taxes and everything else, and you know, and intimidation tactics. Those are illegal, and we don't have those anymore. And if they do, they're one-offs. But the reality is the laws are in
Yet
place
right
to
now,
protect those.
but yet right now, you got Republicans trying to dilute the black vote.
I
And
don't
we
agree.
see this.
I don't agree.
They are.
I think
If
Republicans are
come to
asking
us,
why they're supposed to have to
we'll
consider
listen to
race
vote for
again.
you.
Kareem, you're saying two different things. You're saying just come get our vote and don't change the lines, and then you're saying change the lines, don't dilute our vote.
No,
Which
I'm
one do you
saying,
want?
listen, I understand. I want them to change the lines because I want our votes
Okay.
to mean more right now. So you understand? But what I'm saying is that we are so used to being the
what you're also
subject matter,
saying,
whether it's under Democrats or Republicans.
what you're also
it's all about
saying
the black vote.
is that what you're also saying though is you definitely want race to be a factor in drawing the lines, and that's the problem that we
No, I
have
don't.
right now.
But when you have
Well,
a
you
history,
just said it.
because race has always been a factor. When race has always been a factor, you can't come in 2023 and say race is not a factor. It's always there. It's always in the room. It's always
Well, it's
looking
always
there.
going to be a factor if we keep getting sued over race. At this point, the state of Alabama, the argument that we're making is we were trying not to make it about race, and you sued us again, and now you're saying we have to make it about
But you
race.
can't. Then how can you say that? And when you're taking everybody and pushing them into one precinct,
No, they're not packing. That's the argument being made, but I disagree with
that's
it.
why they need two districts.
All the stacking, packing, and next thing it'll be fracking. I mean, which one's it going to? There's always going to be an argument because what they really want is a Democrat vote. They really believe that it's purely about Democrat. They don't. I don't think the people that have sued on this care a thing about race. I think what they really want is Democrat votes. That's what I think. And the reality is, I think that's an insult to black people. I think it's an insult to black people because it assumes that they will only vote Democrat. And you and I know that's not the case. And now my music's playing. I got to go. Hey, Kareem, I got to go, brother. My music's playing. We're taking a break right now. Appreciate you, Kareem. Have a great day. We'll be right back with Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson, and me, the Grand Council. Y'all stay tuned.
Live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, hour number 3. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, this is that time of the week. It's Wednesday. It's not only hump day, it's Grand Council Day, we like to call it. I got 2 of my brothers in arms that do talk radio of their own. Been doing it longer than me. And we get together, ping each other with questions, and just see how it goes. So I'll call the roll. First of all, from 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN out of Huntsville, and also writing for Yellowhammer News, Dale Jackson. You here? There, stand at ease. All right, and then from FM Talk 106.5, host of the Jeff Poor Show down in Mobile, also the editor-in-chief for 1819 News. Jeff Poor, are you here?
I am present.
You are indeed. All right, I pronounce a quorum. Hit it.
Assemble the Grand Council.
Ba-da. Ba-da-ba-da. All right. Tell you what, I think I went first last time, so Dale Jackson, you got it first. What you got?
At first, I noticed Jeff's feeling a little excited here. First, he's using faulty language on my radio show this morning. Now he's all pumped up. Better watch out. Get your hand on the dump button, everybody. Is this where they get Joe Biden? Is this where they get him?
Which get are we getting?
Any of it. Any of this impeachment stuff. Does it draw any blood on Joe Biden?
You want to go first, Jeff? Take it away.
What? I mean, we've seen his diminished, deteriorating state.
Yeah.
And, I don't think legally the system is just designed to protect this guy. But, I mean, at what point does just, human, does his, humanity show and it's all over? I'm not saying he would kill over and die, but that it's clearly apparent that it's had a detrimental effect on him and he can't serve as president anymore. I mean, is that even in the realm of possibilities?
I look at this too, and I think for Trump, it was Russia, Russia, Russia. And I've seen the evidence, which no one ever got to see. And it was, and special prosecutors coming back with nothing, Mueller, nothing. But in this case, man, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but we got bank records. We've got corporate documents. We've got emails. We've got him using false names out of the White House to talk to his son and go to dinners that he said he never went to. It's on and on and on, and it's pretty legit stuff. And is this where we get him? I'll be honest with you. I think at this point it's almost going to be hard not to get him. The question is it get him enough? And then I do think this is going to wind up being a thing. Something that's not been talked about a lot. There was one report that said that Biden actually may have been able to access funds through Hunter's accounts by having his own debit card on Hunter's accounts, and that may be a thing. And then we also just heard James Comer said Monday that there are now records being produced from offshore bank accounts. So why do you have offshore accounts, multiple companies, and millions transferring in?
The death blow or an impeachment conviction or anything like that. But I think they're tearing him apart in favorability and credibility, although it should already be gone. We could go through 1,000 different reasons why Joe Biden shouldn't be trusted. Just starting back from the death of his wife and daughter and how he's lied about that his entire career to the fact that he thought he was at 9/11 on one of the airplanes.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because I think the walls are coming down. There was apparently the Washington Post editorial board, Washington Post of all things, came out today and pretty much asked him not to run. And so you look at this and go, yeah, the shine's off the apple. Jeff, next question. What do you got?
Redistricting here, and I guess not that there's any new information. There is new information, actually, that Pro Tem Pringle has submitted his original Pringle Plan map to the 3-judge panel to be asked to be considered. And guess who the attorney representing him was? It was Dorman Walker of Bosch and Bingham, who's supposed to be the counsel for the whole committee. But apparently Pringle's doing this without the approval of his Senate counterpart there. But nonetheless, I don't see this whole episode ending well for Alabama. Is there any reason to be optimistic that this is going to come out with a favorable outcome? A lot of people are saying it's just not going to go to the Supreme Court. Don't get your hopes up.
Well, okay, so two parts there. Number one, I got it. You and I talked about Pringle on your show yesterday. I talked about him on my show earlier today. I had Todd Stacy on talking about it also. And in total, I'm going to go ahead and just repeat what I said before. Pringle made a total punk move. Total punk. Look at me. Don't you know? I tried to be nice. I'm the good guy here. Everybody see me. I want to run for Congress again. That's what we just had with Chris Pringle dropping his own plan. There was no benefit to that. It did nothing but throw his peers under the bus. So that being said, is it going to go well? I just, right now, I think what's going to wind up happening is we're going to get maps we think suck, and then we're going to wind up having to deal with it for at least a period of time while it goes to the Supreme Court. And I think I'm going to go ahead and give it 50-50 whether the Supreme Court even takes it up again, which may mean we're stuck with it. Dale?
Pringle seems like he is trying to be the good guy Republican and make the people that will not help him or like him or do anything for him happy. And if that's what's actually going on, then no, I don't think this will work. I think that this will end up in a situation where we will either be stuck with whatever the special master was, and who knows? Mike Rogers made it like he thinks it could be like something crazy. Maps could look completely different all the way around. And if that is the case, yes, it will go poorly for the state of Alabama.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to see, too, whether or not they're going to draw Jerry Carl and Barry Moore into the same district, and I'm betting they are. It's going to be a wild one, fellas. It's just going to be a wild one. All right, third question. Let me jump in there. So news broke literally right before the top of the hour. You guys are probably aware, I'm sure, of the New Mexico governor going out there and just saying that the constitutional rights that we all believe are, sacred, that those are not absolute, and that she has the right to declare a health emergency related to gun violence and then suspend the Second Amendment. She just got enjoined like about 20, 30 minutes ago. So the Gun Owners of America and a couple of other organizations immediately filed suit. They just got an injunction. So in other words, that whole thing is on hold. It's unenforceable anyway. Sheriff's saying they're not going to enforce it. Here's my question. Was this a test case for other states and liberal activists to take action? Or was this a one-off by the New Mexico governor? Dale?
I think it was just a one-off by the New Mexico governor. I think this is just a wild swing in the dark. I spoke with Philip Insler, the state representative from Montgomery, a Democrat, and he said, I don't even know anything about this. I've never even heard about this, and that was yesterday, which tells me that they don't even want to touch this thing. They know it's a disaster from the very beginning, so they'd rather punt the whole thing away. So no, I don't think there's any coordination here. This is just a dumb person being dumb.
Jeff?
She just like you said, maybe it's a test case to see what would happen, but it doesn't it seem kind of like a Hail Mary? It doesn't seem like something that would be, especially in a state like New Mexico. I know it's a blue state, but wouldn't that be a political career ender to take a shot at something like this? That's why she's doing it. Just I got nothing to lose, and this is what I'm going to do.
Well, you would think it would be, and she is in a blue state, so maybe she feels safe in that regard, and she's an Obamaite, so maybe she feels empowered. But I look at it at one point in her comments the other day in her press conference, she said she knows that this is going to be legally challenged, but it was her way of starting the debate. And that just tells me what she really wanted was the notoriety and the ability to move something forward. And whether other governors like what we see in Oregon and Washington State and others might take it up, somebody wants to get this to the Supreme Court. Whether it's her or others, I don't know.
Well, there's no way, Senator, that this Supreme Court is going to rule in their favor, right?
No, I wouldn't think so. I don't think even I think they might lose one of the liberal votes on the Supreme Court if that happened. But but anyway, we'll wait and see. The bottom line is this: they can take action and do what they can if they can declare an emergency, and that's a horrible situation for civil liberties. All right, fellas, round one, we're done. Let's take a break right now. We'll take the break. We'll come right back in a couple of minutes. Round two of the Grand Council with Jeff Poore from FM Talk 106.5 and 1819 News, and Dale Jackson from WVNN up in Huntsville and Yellowhammer News, and just little old me. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, making common sense a superpower. We're back with the Grand Counsel, Jeff Poor from FM Talk 106.5 in Mobile and with 1819 News, Dale Jackson at WVNN up yonder in Huntsville, and also writing for Yellowhammer News. So round two, Dale Jackson, you're up. What you got?
Okay, so I had to pick Grant up from chess camp today. So
Chess
he asked
camp?
me to ask you, yes, I can't play chess, but he can. He beat my wife at chess yesterday. I was very impressed.
Wow.
But, either way, he asked a question about that beating that took place down at Auburn.
Yeah.
That the two guys were watching someone beat the hell out of some guy and then toss a girl and beat her up some more. Is there a crime to just sit back and watch people beat the hell out of other people and not do anything about it? And should it be illegal?
Oh, well, I mean, you're jumping into, I mean, so first of all, I think there's been a devaluing in our society of what I would call normal standards and standards of decency. And part of that is the smartphone. Everybody's so desperate to film something and put it up on their Instagram reel that they forget that every once in a while you might need to step in and be a hero. But I will say this, legally speaking, there's actually typically not an obligation to intervene. Now, I can just tell you, if you're standing by and you had the means to help a child who was being, abducted or something like that, and you did nothing, like you just filmed it and watched, I think that somebody should be able to bring civil liability to in some cases. But criminal liability, no, I don't think so. I could be wrong. Jeff?
I mean, I don't want to be obligated. I agree with you about the desensitization of the culture and everybody wanting to go viral. But I legally, criminally or civilly, I guess the child, but I don't know. Imposing some kind of obligation on an innocent bystander who's not violating any law, just it seems to get into a really rocky place that I don't really like.
Yeah, and look at what happened to the guy on the subway train up in New York, the retired Marine who just decided he'd had enough, and he intervened on a guy who was threatening people's lives. And the whole world looks at him and goes, yeah, but the DA goes, no. And that's where he's facing criminal charges. Your own question, Dale, what do you got?
Yeah, it's a hard one. It reminds me of the last episode of Seinfeld, and they sat there and they filmed the guy getting harassed, and they end up going to jail. I don't know. I don't think obviously there's not an obligation, but I'm torn on whether or not there should be, because then you get into what's reasonable and what's not. Is it reasonable for Jeff to intervene when that would probably just get Jeff beat up? But if someone like I intervened, it would stop it. It's who's responsible in these things. And I think that there's a lot of questions. So I think where it is right now is probably where it's going to have to stay.
I think what we should do, though, we should look at the idea of decriminalizing Good Samaritan behavior. I mean, that there are Good Samaritan laws in place right now around the nation. Alabama has one, and it's a little dicey. But the situation we had up in there in D.C. or New York, that was a clear case of saving people's lives. The bad guy lost his life. And now this guy's going to jail potentially. Ugly situation. All right, next question, Jeff. What do you got?
First, let me say, 5'6" Dale Jackson talking a big game about how he's going to step in and save the day. That is bold.
5'6".
I'm 5'9",
just
like every other 5'8" guy.
Hey, go stand on a cinder block when you talk to me that way. Hey, the special election for the old David Cole seat. Democrats think they can flip this thing. Y'all know it better than I do. What do you think?
I look at this and think, well, good on you. I guess you got to try, but it's not going to change the supermajority a bit. But I don't think so. I think it's going to wind up being still a safe seat. It's a little more purple up there, but Dale knows it better than I do. So what are your thoughts, Dale?
They drew that seat as unsafe as possible because Mike Ball was leaving, and they didn't care if they lost it. And number two, Marilyn Lands, the Democrat, was a Mike Ball BFF. So they knew she was going to run. I'm not saying they drew it for her, although some people are saying that on the radio, Christopher Horn being one of them. And I will just say, I think that they don't really care if they lose that seat because it was drawn the way it was to protect everything around it. You sacrifice one to save many, right?
Well, we'll wind up seeing. But I mean, I look at it and think part of me just thinks, having grown up in the Huntsville area, I just have a hard time believing that. But I get it.
As a Senator Williams, you were down there. When you draw the seat, sometimes, if someone's leaving, okay, let's nibble off some of their edges, make that a little less safe to protect the people around us. That's how political gerrymandering
Well,
works.
I never had that conversation. I can just tell you right now. Mine was like friggin' draw it as red tight as you can, man. That was my thoughts.
I can hear you winking through the phone.
Just okay, you wink if you want to, but 5'6". All right, go ahead, Jeff. Your own question. What do you got?
It would surprise me if it went Democrat, but this is the time when Democrats got to show their muster, right? Because low turnout election in a kind of an off cycle is a good time for them to get out the vote and beat the Republicans.
Well, we shall see. Last question, with only about 2 minutes left. Most of my questions have been gone. My list, the last one I have here is, you guys had a story on 1819. A kid, 6 years old, in Dora, Alabama, in a Jefferson County public school, was playing cops and robbers with his buddy, and because he was going pow pow with his finger in the shape of a gun, he was suspended. And I'm just questioning. So first of all, how does this happen in Alabama? Secondly, when's the lawsuit start? Dale?
Suspend everyone in the chain of command that made that decision. Anyone that touched it needs to be suspended for a month for being a complete idiot, embarrassing the city, the state, and the school district. Give the kid an award.
And send him to chess camp. That's right. And then
That's right.
That's right. And then what do you think, Jeff?
Well, Dora, red part of a very blue county now, Jefferson County. I guess it doesn't totally surprise me, but you're right. This is something that shouldn't happen in Alabama.
I would have never made it through a week of school. I would have. I was always playing soldiers or superheroes or cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians or something. There were more pretend guns in my life than I have in my adult life now. What, Dale?
Grant's doing this thing right now where he does double finger guns and says, "That's where you're wrong, Buckaroo." And I don't know where he got that. I totally didn't tell him that. And he's doing that. If he does that at school, he's going to get suspended.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you live in Dora, Alabama, you're at risk, bud. You're at risk.
Okay.
Just keep an eye on it. Raise that child right. All right, fellas, I appreciate both of you. That's the Grand Council with Jeff Poor from FM Talk 106.5 in Mobile, host of the Jeff Poor Show, also the editor-in-chief for 1819 News, Dale Jackson from WVNN up in Huntsville, and he also writes for Yellowhammer News, and just little old me. Y'all stay tuned. We got plenty more. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama. I mean this one, Alabama. I'm talking about this show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And I'll tell you who else covers down on some major ground, Southern Immediate Care. Southern Immediate Care, one of our sponsors, is a chain of clinics that covers much of North Alabama. They've got like locations in Gadsden, Anniston, Atala, 5 locations around the Birmingham area. I think the 2 newest ones are Chelsea and Hoover. Listen, they're open 7 days a week, y'all. 7 days a week. You wake up on a Saturday morning, got a problem, the kid's got a fever or something like that. Southern Immediate Care, they're open. Every time I've been, because this is who I use, every time I've been, it's clean. There's great staff. They're friendly. They get you right in. And listen, they can do x-rays and vaccinations and all that kind of stuff right there on the spot. So I'm just saying, you got issues, you need to know Southern Immediate Care. They'll take walk-ins, and it's all ages, geriatric and down to pediatric. So check them out. Go online, find their website, find the location nearest you, Southern Immediate Care. And do me a favor, tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Going to the phones right now. Jeff from Indiana. Hey, Jeff Rowe, how you doing, bud?
Hey, doing pretty good, Phil.
Good.
Hey, I've got a little story about this gun stuff. Pertains to me.
Oh,
pertains
goodness.
to my kid, anyway.
All right.
Yeah. Well, when my boy was in kindergarten, him and another little boy was playing cops and robbers or whatever, and they had a couple little wooden blocks there. Well, they put 2 of them together and made it look like a little gun, just in their hand.
Right.
Well, the teacher got all over him, and he was a good kid, never got in trouble for nothing,
Yeah.
And he got a red demerit like or whatever. They didn't know suspension or anything, but they put it on the board, and he come home all upset and everything, just worried to death about it and everything. And then my wife went to the parent-teacher conference or whatever, and she handed her a picture that they had them color. Well, the picture was that of a green gun that come home in his pack. And asked her, what's going on with this, and everything. You got in trouble for acting like he had a gun, and she had absolutely no answers. So
None.
That's my little.
Did they ever take
none.
the demerit off, or was he stuck with it?
It was just kindergarten. It wasn't anything permanent or anything, but he was just all upset because if you're good, you get a gold star. They had different things there, but yeah, he on the board there they put up there, that he had a red thing against him.
Is this your son that's grown up and married now?
Yes. So
So
this was a while back.
This is a while back.
Yeah, this is a while back. So yeah, and this is Indiana as well too. We're just as red as you are.
There's rednecks in Indiana, absolutely.
Exactly.
It boggles the mind, man. And I'll be honest with you, this was like an every moment event for me growing up. That's just the way I played. My dad was in the Army, and we played Army all the time. I mean, you just walked around going da 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 da, and I got you. No, I didn't. And you just, that's what you did. Anyway.
Oh, we're not supposed to do that, Phil.
Well,
we shouldn't have done that.
I got news. Worked out for me.
The thing about it is that if the people who are teaching our kids are this basically blind and stupid, they don't need to be teaching anybody. We need to start giving them demerits.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's like a hypersensitivity here that just needed to be dealt with. In fact, if anything, what you do is you teach kids about the safe and responsible use of guns, and by doing that, you've generated a respect for firearms that too many kids don't have because they're not allowed to talk about it. And the first time they see one, they don't know what to do with it. Hey Jeff, be safe on the road, man.
All right. Have a good one, Phil.
You too, buddy.
Thanks.
See ya. You had this happen, Boomer. You were telling me during the break.
Yeah, I did. Okay, so absolutely. It was just in a store, and my little boy, he's in kindergarten. So, I mean, it wasn't at school or anything, but it was at a store, and he was just going around coat racks or, I don't even remember what store it was, but he was going around somewhere, and going pew, 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 and I was probably
using his hands to
and I probably was doing it back to him, let's be honest. I was just being a big kid, and then next thing I know, a lady said, "Hey, you probably shouldn't do that anymore." I'm like, "Well, why? I'm just playing little guns with my boy.
How about this? Stay in your lane, lady.
Stay in your lane. But exactly what you just said is teaching them
Yes.
the safety and the correct way of
Yeah.
guns. So if they do see it, they know not to touch it or not to use it. That's what I do. I mean, I've taught my little boy, do not ever go near this without your daddy.
Yeah.
You know, and then I also took him out shooting one day, you know, to teach him this is what this does.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just the safety of guns.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
And you graduate from the Red Ryder BB gun to your own rifle one day, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, come on. That's what I did with my son. That's what I remember as a kid. It's actually my grandfather in this particular case. I can still picture it. We were at his house, and he was going to show me his pistol, but he said, "But son, you treat it like it's loaded, even though I just unloaded it. You treat it like it's loaded." And he said, "I want you to walk over there to the door, and I want you to do this, and I want you to pull the trigger back, the hammer back, and I want you to point it out the door." I said, "But Granddad, it's not loaded." "Son, you treat it like it's loaded at all times." And he had me point it out the door and squeeze the trigger so I could feel it go click. And what he was doing was familiarizing me not just with the gun, he was familiarizing me with the actual respect and the safety that goes with firearms.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, listen, I mean, I got a ton of text messages, tons, that I really want to get to, but there's some stories. I mean, this third dipper, I've been looking forward to this all day. So this morning, I'm going to do it. I'm going for it. I'm going right into I'm dippering, bud. So here's the deal. This morning I was getting ready for the show, resourcing the dippers, getting ready. I was minus one dipper, and I thought, I need this, I need something. What do we got? And then I found this story. I thought, that's a good news story. I like that. And then I realized, you know what? Every once in a while, we got to talk about just the fact that there are good folks still out there. Just good folks doing good things. And I don't say that to sound trite or, you know, touchy-feely. No, I think it's important that we recognize there are still local heroes, and there are still celebrities who love America, and there are still things happening that we need to know is happening. So the one that kicked it off for me was Chris Pratt, who is actually one of my favorite actors right now. Chris Pratt is really proven himself to be somebody who can, you know, who can address the moment and then stay in the A list, if you know what I'm saying. He is not afraid to say, I actually love Jesus. Deal with it and be okay. And then he can turn around and represent something like a Navy SEAL and make it look believable. Well, actor Chris Pratt, story on Breitbart, came out yesterday. Actor Chris Pratt actually participated in a September 11th ceremony on Monday. And he was the one who planted, they were in this particular ceremony at Pepperdine University, they were planting flags in memory of individuals who had died on 9/11. And so they planted a flag for every person that died on 9/11. And if they were not Americans, they planted a flag of their nation. But what he pointed out, this is Chris Pratt talking, he says, today let's take a moment to remember and honor the lives lost on September 11th, 2001. It's a day that changed our world forever, but it also showed us the strength and resilience that define the American spirit. And he said, I had the honor of planting the last flag at the Waves of Flags ceremony today at Pepperdine, and each flag represented the innocent life lost that day. And he went on to say this, as we look back on the events of that fateful day, let's remember the heroes, the firefighters, police officers, first responders, and ordinary people who risked everything to help their fellow citizens, and their courage and selflessness to inspire us all. And he went on to, basically the article points out that these are unbreakable bonds of love, he said. He said, actor Chris Pratt has regularly also expressed his patriotism by celebrating military veterans while extolling American virtues. I just thought that was so good that it was worth bringing to your point, to the point here of talking to y'all. But then it dawned on me, you know what? He's not the only one. We hear about wokeness in celebrity world. We hear about things in Hollywood that we don't agree with, or movies being made that just are determined to change our culture. We hear about people that, you know, that forget where they came from. And then I found another story. And this one also came from Breitbart, believe it or not. But a guy who I'm not even familiar with, but Boomer is, country superstar, a guy who goes by the name Jelly Roll.
Yep.
Jelly Roll.
I know some Jelly Roll.
So here is...
Not because I listen to him, just I know of Jelly Roll.
Well, it says here in the article he's a country superstar and rapper.
Yes, he is.
I am tripping over that.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's the thing. Story came out yesterday. This guy, Jelly Roll, he's doing his concert in Las Vegas. In the middle of the concert, he looks down and realizes there's an older man who's basically grooving to the music wearing a Vietnam veteran hat. And he stopped what he was doing on the stage, and he said, "This gentleman right here has got a Vietnam veteran hat on. And he's been standing right here rocking along with me all night." He said, "Sir, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you and your service. Thank you so much." And, the crowd, of course, roared. And then at that point, he said, "And I'm going to be honest with you, sir, you will never have to buy a ticket to my show again. I'm going to get with your people, and you're welcome here forever. Thank you very much." And I thought, that's just a class act. Man, there are still good. I don't know anything about his life. He might not be the kind of person I would want to leave alone with my daughter. But then again, how cool was that particular moment? And we forget that there are good people out there. Here's another one. While I'm regaling you with stories to make you feel good, just warm the cockles of your little Rightside ruffian hearts. How about this one? I pulled this story off a website actually called the Good News Network. So there's this kid named Eric Kilburn. Eric Kilburn Jr. He's a senior in high school in Michigan. Dude is 6'10". 6'10", and I don't know how much he weighs, but I saw a picture. Old boy is huge. He's so big, he's got the biggest feet known. He wears a size 23. Nobody wears a 23. Nobody even makes a 23. And his unique growth rate, it says, is almost to the point that his feet seem to change his size every 6 months. And his parents are just, they can't keep him in shoes because they don't make shoes like this. It says at 15 years old, when he was 15, he had a size 22. The largest which any sport company had ever needed to make. But soon enough, those were even too small. And yet he plays sports. I mean, he's not big and just sitting idle. He's a football player. And I hope the kid gets a scholarship. But it said Eric's mother, Rebecca, was left with no other choice but to have to order specially made orthopedic shoes that cost $1,500 a pair. This is anyway. Some folks decided to do like a GoFundMe and try to, but they raised a little bit, and they raised like $3,500, but it got the attention of Puma, Under Armour, and Shaquille O'Neal. And they got together and they sent experts to his house who measured his feet, had him stand in like the modeling clay to get the actual image. And this kid just got, for the first time ever, 4 pairs of cleats, 2 pairs of trainers, and some extra shoes. And he said he has never felt like he said the traction he had now finally on the field was like something he's never felt before. And I just thought, well, thank you, Shaq and Puma and Under Armour. And I think I'll go buy another Under Armour t-shirt. That's
pretty awesome.
That's just pretty cool.
That's awesome.
6'10". At freaking 15 years old. Let's take a break right now. We'll do that. When we get back, I got another 1 or 2 of those I got to tell you because they're just worth telling. You guys stay tuned. Good folks are still out there. We'll be right back. And we're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hey, listen, I got to tell you, some other folks that are just plain right, my friends at ZLA Solutions. ZLA Solutions, man, they've been with us since the very beginning. We've been on the show for over 2 years, and ZLA has been there ever since. But yeah, ZLA Solutions, they pride themselves on helping you make your business better. They can bring all kinds of solutions to you. Check them out on their website, see what all they do. Logistics, warehousing, quality control, sorting and containment, different things. But their bread and butter remains staffing. So you need people, y'all, you need people. They can find you people. They can find you the one or two hard to finds with niche skills that no one else has, or they can find you an entire shift of people. But yeah, ZLA Solutions at ZLAUSA.com. That's their website, ZLAUSA.com. And do me a favor, when you talk to them, tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio, because I'm just telling you, man, they get a lot of our folks calling them, and they are doing a lot of amazing things for big companies all over our listening area and beyond, really. All right, I am in this section right now. I'm calling it Good Folks Are Still Out There. Let me tell you this story right here. This comes from Australia, but it's so worth it. This will just bless you. So starts off sad, gets a little better. So down in Australia, this older gentleman, his name was Alex Shaw. Alex Shaw is 78 years old, recently diagnosed with dementia. But Alex had been a working man all his life, and he had a savings account with roughly $500,000 in it, I think 460 or something like that. And he got scammed, and it's horrible. The idea that people do this is just maddening to me. But he got tricked by some scammers in revealing his banking information. He didn't give them money. They were able to get his banking information somehow. Next thing you know, they were raiding his account. He lost $460,000 that he had amassed for his retirement. His son was working with him, trying to talk to the bank and try to figure out if there's a way we can get this back. How do we report this to the authorities? What can we do? And yet, everybody's saying, you hardly ever see these come back. Just please be aware, sir. Until the bank one day decided this was a thing that they could just make right. And so the bank called one day and said they had been reviewing the situation, and they didn't know that they could have prevented it. But on just looking at his situation and knowing that he had dementia, they said, considering Mr. Shaw's vulnerability and the impact the scam has had on him, we intend to reimburse him the entire amount of $460,174.04.
The bank did this.
The bank did that.
Wow.
If that doesn't restore your faith in society, I don't know what does. Good people are still out there, y'all. Still out there. Listen, and I by the way, I had a ton of text messages, and I'm just not able to get to them today. So I just want you guys to know that is not the way we usually do it, but the topics kept running. I will finish up with, what do we got here? I'll do this one. Story from Texas broke last week. There's a Good Samaritan in Texas. We were talking about Good Samaritans a while ago on the thing right there with the Grand Council. A Good Samaritan in Texas is being hailed as an angel after she pulled a paralyzed man out of his car as it burst into flames on a street in Dallas. Apparently, this guy, Dennis Brown, is paralyzed from the waist down. He's able to drive with a hand-controlled car. He said he felt something going wrong with the vehicle, and all of a sudden he looked up and the front end was on fire. Well, for whatever reason, the vehicle burst into flames. I saw a picture of it. It was no small fire. It wasn't like smoke coming out from under your hood. It was engulfed in flames. And it said that he was doing everything he could to get his wheelchair out of the car because he had it set up to where he could, pull the wheelchair out, hop into his wheelchair. But you can imagine the panic, the flames are up, he's paralyzed, and all of a sudden there was a unknown woman who grabbed the door, jumped into action. She realized his situation. She recognized getting the wheelchair out was not going to be, there's no time for that. And she just grabbed him and dragged him out of the car to safety. He calls her his angel. And I'm just telling you, man, there are people out there that will still do stuff. And his mother said if she had not pulled him out, he would have burned in that car if she was his angel. And Brown said he appreciated the woman for her heroic act and hopes that he can one day thank her in person because he doesn't know who she was. Just saying.
Wow.
Might have been an angel.
Might have been.
Might have been. There are still good folks out there. And we talked about things that are happening around this world and all that. Things like kids can't play guns in school. Talk about people that just film it when bad things happen to people instead of intervening. And I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't even get to all the stories I had because we don't have time. But folks, there are still good folks out there. A bunch of them are in this listening audience, and I know it. I'm just telling you right now, do not lose hope and do not forget, like my wife always says, there's more of us than there are them. There are. The world that we know and love is not gone. The question is, what are we going to do to preserve what we've got? That's where we've got to be. Rightside Ruffians, we got to stay in tune, man. You guys have an amazing night. Boomer and I back here tomorrow, too. I think we got Boomer McQueen tomorrow. We will see you then.